I've been taking you on a very small journey, really, with regards to Jonbenet Ramsey and her murder in 1996. And what I do is just discuss some ideas so that you can think about points on your own and come to your own conclusions. But there's so much that I could sort of explain to you, I guess, about my thought processes or just my emotional reaction to things or the blink aspect and what I see and sense about this case. When I give opinions, though, I like to base it only on fact, and that's what I think all of us should do, because we can all actually have quite a lot of different opinions, even using fact. And that should be true for any case that we follow. What are some of the themes that I'd like to discuss with you? I don't know if I want to, but that I could, to sort of show you a bit more. Numbers, which some of them relate to other cases, one of them being 49. Themes of sacrifice, spiritual sort of perfection, transcendence. We've got colour, we've got colour playing a big role. We have food, we have food. The idea of food, what food was shared, what bread was broken and shared, by whom, when, with pancakes, pineapple, crab. We have sort of spiritual themes or religiosity. We have imagery and costume and set design. And we have a lot of connections to make around all of these things. Some of them are good just stories on their own, but they all relate to each other, and this is where it gets very convoluted and difficult for someone just to explain a few things to you. And well, let's just start. Let's just think about the themes of the cross, resurrection, miracles, and sacrifice. Jesus Christ was crucified. This is at Easter time, not Christmas time. All of these sort of holidays and things, sacraments and important Sabbaths and things, everything is kind of mixed up in the Ramsey case. Okay, so Christ is crucified with two other people flanking him on their own crosses. They are lashed to the cross, and Jesus is nailed to the cross. It would have been through here, but it's always shown here with, the stigmata. He's nailed to the cross, and Sabbath is starting for the Jewish people at 6 p.m. on the Friday. Crucifixion, death by crucifixion. It's the cross is a symbol of torture. To crucify someone is to put them to slow, disturbing death. Okay, so the Friday comes, and the Jewish people want to make sure that no one is dying on their Sabbath, so they need it to happen. Pontius Pilate sends Roman soldiers down to the crucifixion site, or up to the crucifixion site, and they break the legs of the people flanking Jesus Christ, and then they view Jesus Christ, see that he appears dead, and one soldier draws his sword. He pokes him. He pokes him here to see if he's alive, And remember, there's the crown of thorns, and there's also the marks, the crown of thorns. So when you think of Jesus Christ and the passion of Christ and everything, culminating in this damage, okay, etc., right? Prior to Jesus's death, one of his miracles he performed is to do with Lazarus of Bethany. Bethany sounds a little bit like Bethlehem, doesn't it? The Star of Bethlehem at Christmas. So Mary and Martha, they call on Jesus to come and help heal Lazarus. Jesus arrives too late, 4 days too late. Lazarus has already died 4 days prior to his arrival. So the grieving of Lazarus's family is so profound, and it's dramatic, and they plea with Jesus Christ, please, what can you do, you know? And Jesus is moved. This is where the expression Jesus wept. Oh, Jesus wept. It's sometimes sarcastic, but you know, Jesus wept. Well, he's at Lazarus's tomb, and he's crying, crossing the threshold, and he raises his hands to his Father, God, and begs and please raise Lazarus. And Lazarus does rise from the dead. Okay, it's one of Jesus Christ's miracles. So that should be bringing you into mind of a few things. In particular, Patsy Ramsey, over the body of her daughter, begging to Jesus Christ, you raised Lazarus, raise my daughter. And her marks, the damage on her body, the cords, the, you know, everything, right? Okay. You've got colour amongst themes of clothing. One of them is colour, costumes. What about Patsy Ramsey a few years earlier wearing her Cardinals outfit? So her red twin set fine knit jumper with the cardigan and her cross, okay, pectoral cross. So cardinal, you've got the bird cardinal. It's a common French name. It has the meaning my soul and honor. And cardinal is also the position held by people in the church, high up in Christian church. They are cardinals. They wear the red robes. They wear the big pectoral cross. I mean, you should see Patsy Ramsey's pectoral cross she's got on in that photo. It's ginormous, and her very strange little altar boy haircut. So sacrifice, you know, with the liturgical garments. And again in 1996, I mean, Patsy's wanting to wear the red. It's got flecks of grey and black, but you know, this red top, the jumper with her black velvet trousers. She wanted Jonbenet Ramsey to wear black velvet trousers and a red jumper, and Jonbenet wanted to wear her, so the story goes, Jonbenet wanted to wear her white top from the Gap with the star that she wore on Christmas morning, if those photos are from Christmas, because there sure aren't any photos from the whites, just remember that. And her black velvet pants with her black velvet vest that she bought as an outfit at the Gap with Patsy. So, you know, Patsy said that eventually this was the case, that was the outfit, and that Jonbenet never wore that red jumper. Food. We have themes of food and the confusion over who ate what, where and when. starting with pancakes, you know. Now it could be grief that Patsy Ramsey, she barely recalls making these pancakes on Christmas Day. You know, they got up early, they did the rounds of presents. Jonbenet had her bracelet given to her the day, 2 days before Christmas. Okay, that's important. 23rd of December. So the Ramseys had a party, their own party, a black and white party. Black bolero vest for Jonbenet with white decoration, and probably her black pants and a white shirt, and there's other people around. They're all sort of in black and white. Another little girl, maybe the White's child, is in a black and white striped skirt, and Jonbenet was given her bracelet with the date of 25th of the 12th, 1996 on it to wear. She got given that early. And Patsy's, you know, hard of, you know, memory when she can't remember making pancakes, but oh, she probably did. Did they have them? And years later, John Ramsey, he can remember very well that, you know, they made the big breakfast, the usual one, including hash browns and things, and Patsy makes the pancakes, and Jonbenet was always wanting to be there doing this with Patsy. And there's all these distancings and this wanting to hold things at bay. You know, so you've got the pancakes, you've got the crab, and then you've got the pineapple. The crab is, apparently there was crab set aside for Jonbenet specifically to eat at the Whites because she likes seafood. It's as if to mark her existence at these places. There are no photos. Now maybe she was there. The cops should know this. But there's always something that is held back. But, you know, I'm guessing there are other people at the party. They were all relatives of the Whites. Not a group of friends, okay? And not a group of friends, but the Whites family and then the Ramsey family. This was becoming a tradition because it was the second year in a row they'd gone there for Christmas dinner. You know, was Jonbenet there? Was she sick at home? You know, some reason why she didn't go. Because on the way home, Jonbenet doesn't go into the homes they visit. I think they go to a home where Patsy just goes in, and then the Steins where Patsy and Bert go up, and then they decide not to go to the Fernies who turn up on Boxing Day morning along with the Whites and the pastor. And so no one saw Jonbenet then. Now apparently, you know, the neighborhood on Christmas Day, everyone's playing together, and it's not just, you know, the timelines are always very fuzzy about when John checked on the plane and when they ate, or if they ate, and when they started getting ready, when they leave. It's all out by hours. But you've got this idea of clothing and what Jonbenet was actually in, okay? The urine is on her pajamas. These pajamas were for a 12-year-old girl, so they were large. They were worn over underpants. They were like bloomers that Jonbenet just liked. They were bought for Patsy Ramsey's niece, apparently, but Jonbenet wanted them, and she wore them with her little silver star white top. And this is what she was in when she was carried up from the basement, and the urine is on these pants. And you lose urine when you pee yourself or when you die. And do you think Jonbenet was wearing these underneath her black velvet pants? No, I mean, they were large, they were bulky. Why would she wear 2 pairs of underwear under black velvet pants? Was she just very attached to them and wanted to wear them because it was cold and she could layer up? So, you know, if John Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, Burke Ramsey, and Jonbenet Ramsey went to Fleet White and Priscilla White's home, what were they wearing? When did they get back? Was Jonbenet carried in? You know, she would have been wearing black velvet pants, and if she was dead, they would have been soiled. So were they something that was already soiled and were put back on her? What do you think? So, I mean, there's so many theories about, well, you know, she's come home dead from the party. You know, there's theories she wasn't at the party, because, I mean, she certainly wasn't seen on the way home, and she wasn't shown to us in any photographs as being at the Whites, because they've been they've been withheld. And, you know, we've got things, you know, always trying to, you know, placing things at scene or making scenes seem weird, all relating around food, you know. And why is it important for Priscilla White to tell the story about the crab? And is it nothing? What do you think? What do you think? You know, 49, so this is this angel number where, you know, all your life's work, your hard work, and your reward all come together. And it's, you know, it's a spiritual perfection number. And yeah, and it relates to forgiveness. And it's when things come into alignment and you come into alignment with divine source. The divine source, whatever it is recognizing what you've done to that point. And 49, you know, you've got 7 by 7, you've got the numbers, you know, there's 70 by 7 a lot in the Bible, getting 49, which is 49 tens. You've got, you know, the Pentecost Spring Feast, which relates to it. You've got the 7 Sabbaths and the Day of Atonement, which comes on the last day of 7 weeks, 7 days of 7. 7 weeks, that falls February, March, yeah. So, you know, there's all these prophecies and things around 49, 7, with relation to this murder case. Well, Patsy Ramsey had just turned 40 prior to Jonbenet's death, and John Ramsey had thrown her a surprise party, maybe so that he could control the spending. Don't know how much of a surprise it would have been then. How did he stop Patsy from organising her own party? She was known for spending 5-10 times the budget for events that other people could have. This is in her volunteer capacity, or if she's throwing a party for John's Access Graphics business. And, you know, he's quoted as saying he didn't like her spending. I mean, he liked his big ticket items, and she was quite frivolous with money, I think. But, you know, they felt like they'd made it, and they were both materialistic, and they wanted to find things in life. Not that there's anything wrong with that on its own at all. Go for it. You know, but yeah, the costuming, staging, the dramatics, but how these things that might just seem queer, meaningless, coincidental, etc. on their own, and then you add in other things like marks on a body. Is it just a coincidence, you know, this poking with a train track? is someone alive? Was this done on purpose to, you can think all sorts of things, can't you? Rituals, is this done on purpose to recreate? Is Jonbenet a sacrifice? I mean, yeah, there's so many disparate things about, the costumes, even, times of when people went to bed, who went first, who saw whom when, were they playing downstairs together, John and Burke? Did they all go straight to bed? John Ramsey was initially saying that he was taking melatonin, that he took melatonin to assure a good night's sleep, to be well rested. And later, when he's talking to MSMs, he is saying that it's Ambien. And now, you don't just think one day to tell the police that you're taking melatonin, but then later you're going to just somehow change that in your mind to Ambien. It's not something that you just forget or you just say wrongly, because it's just something that it's locked in there, isn't it? If you can know that you took melatonin, this is something you're saying in a police interview at least, and this is months later, then why does it become Ambien later? How does that happen, how does it happen that, there are, okay, other things as well, like there's John Andrews' room at the home, like, it's probably handy to have a room where you can, a central place where you can spread things out and not necessarily make a mess in your own place, or where you can bring things together into. Patsy Ramsey says, packing was done in John Andrews' room in the house, and she was packing for everyone ready to go on their trip coming up. And so were the suitcases stored conveniently there, or were they brought up from the basement? Did she just leave John Andrews' hard case suitcase down there? Was it taken downstairs because she decided she didn't want to use it for the packing? Because, she had enough cases, she wanted to use nicer luggage. I mean, apparently it's a bit of a West Virginian thing to be able to use these garbage bags. And people say you can't take the West Virginian out of the girl. But, if she's worried about nice luggage and wanting to put John Andrews' filthy old suitcase down there because it's got a blanket in it with his sperm on it and a Dr. Seuss book, I wonder if it was one about the night before Christmas. I don't know. There's, so is this ever asked about, so you're packing suitcases? Was this suitcase of John Andrews always kept down in the basement? I mean, what the answer is going to be. Well, I don't know. Oh, it's a big house. We've got lots of stuff. I don't know. It's always the I don't know, or I can't remember, or I can't recall, all these things. And then if it's John that's saying it, it's as for the basement and who was down there to do with gift wrapping and things, I mean, John then admits that he was down there getting supplies to wrap presents, because he was wrapping presents in the butler's pantry. And Patsy, though, was wrapping presents in the basement a couple of days before Christmas, for 2 consecutive days. So, each now have said in their own admission they have recently been down in the basement. It's not just somewhere where the kids play and it's abandoned other than that, because they were hiding presents there. John says they were in the butler's pantry. Patsy says the presents were actually down in the basement. Sorry, this is just a bit all over the place, but I realise that if I were to explore each of these things, it would be quite exhausting to do bit by bit. What is it that John is saying, that he's astounded at how dead to the world, how fast asleep Jonbenet was? When he first says that he took her to bed, laid her on the bed. In some recollections, Patsy's there with them at the same time. In some of them, she's gone there ahead and opened the bed up for Jonbenet to be tucked into by John. In other cases, she comes afterwards to do it, and she tucked her in snugly. But, you know, John saying, you know, I couldn't believe how fast asleep she was. She didn't stir, is what he's, you know, implying, that she didn't wake. But, you know, then you've got the story that there were bedtime stories to both Burke and Jonbenet. You've got the story that John was actually playing with one of Burke's Christmas presents with him, putting together a garage downstairs for a little while. He knew that that was the best way to get Burke off to bed, was to let him finish what he was focused on. Seems to show a psychological understanding of Burke and how he operates. So yeah. So it's just, yeah, it's just a whole lot of, sorry, this is a bit of a jumble because, again, I'm being kind of lazy. I can write pieces. I could write it and then read it out to you. I do that if I've done that once recently, haven't I? Yeah, so yeah, and you know, the red top, Patsy saying, well, she, you know, Jonbenet was wearing this to go to sleep. Has she forgotten that Jonbenet was supposed to not have worn the red jumper to the Fleet Whites? And then the same red jumper is found with Burke's penknife, and it's wet. It's in the laundry, the upstairs second level laundry. But you know, of course, Jonbenet is in her Silver Star jammies and the jammy pants, the ones that we have seen her photographed in, obviously in her autopsy photos, but prior to that, when she is getting some presents, we see her in a black and white outfit, but this is at the Ramsey home on the 23rd. Are there things that just people aren't speaking up about, that they just allude to sideways, like, you know, the Fleet Whites not coming out and saying, oh, I was asked to make up a story about Jonbenet being at my house. Well, maybe she was at the house. And then there's a lot of stories about, well, did Jonbenet make it home alive? She was carried asleep in home, but then sometimes she's seen walking sleepily up ahead of the parents. But, you know, certainly with the Walkers and the Steins and then the Fernies, none of them are seeing her on the way home from the Whites. I mean, Patsy goes into the Walkers, Patsy and Burke go up to the Steins, and then they decide not to see the Fernies. The Fernies are on call for Boxing Day. They're there at the scene, at the Ramsey home. You know, Patsy tucking her in later, John laying her down, she's not waking up, John read her a bedtime story, John took an Ambien, John took melatonin. You know, when is the last sighting of Jonbenet? I mean, was she playing with children on Christmas Day? I mean, I guess they've all been asked. They came around, they wanted to see all of her presents. There's so many, you know, questions that you can create conspiracy theories in your own mind about, isn't there? Did she go to the Whites? Was she carried in dead? But, you know, you must remember she was found in her pajamas, these bloomers, and they've got the urine on them. I mean, she wet her bed so often. I mean, were they put on her instead of something else, instead of what she really did die in? you know, where just some old bloomers got in and put on her. Did she not lose her bladder when she died that night? Or, you know, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, this timeline is a head fuck, you know. So really what I look at is, okay, what are the things that certain people want to avoid, the themes, what do they avoid saying, how do they style themselves, and who is it that really is the most mysterious or seemingly acts in the most confusing ways if they have the most at stake. Or, you know, you can see some interviews where Patsy Ramsey absolutely loathes John, and you know, one of them is when, I think it's on Connecting Point or Connecting Life or something, it's like this preaching, you know, certain faction of Christianity, they've got this TV show or something, and they went on there for this god awful interview. It's quite disturbing. It's very sad. You know, they look like people that have been wealthy that are now hard on their luck, and they're not wearing the trendiest fashions, and it looks like John's wearing slippers or just some sort of loafer rather than a beautiful brogue or something, and he looks grey and fat and sort of so unwell. And Patsy's wearing a wig. She's in an aqua suit, an old suit. I mean, her pride would rather have her had a fresh new trendy suit. I'm sure she's got these funny old shoes that could have been wedding shoes, and you know, these satin slingbacks that look they just look dated. But you know, the thing is, they're suffering. Patsy's suffering. She's dying of cancer. You know, she's probably suffering through treatment, lost her hair. Again, she sounds drugged. But the way she stares at John and the things that he says, there's a moment at 7:29. Oh, please just go and watch it. It's awkward. It's horrible to watch. You know, I think just like the McCanns, this is a couple that didn't really like each other. They represented things to each other. I think they had a lot of things that they did in their life that they just lived their own life. Yes, I do think John Ramsey would have been having an affair or 9, you know, throughout the marriage prior to Jonbenet's death. It would have been more difficult afterwards for gallivanting ways, although he certainly has a penchant for, you know, having relationships. He didn't stay celibate or single or anything like that. No judgment on that in particular. But, you know, Patsy might have been doing the same. You know, they served each other somehow, you know, didn't they? And what is the truth of their relationship, their marriage, and the comings and goings of their lives? You know, Patsy and her almost fanatic need to show how Christian she is. I mean, it's so ostentatious to wear this big pectoral cross. It's not just like this delicate little cross here that people might have as a personal symbol. I mean, it's a torture. It's a weapon of torture, you know. I mean, it's a symbol of torture, sort of, isn't it? The cross. And sometimes you have Jesus crucified on it. People wear that, you know. But, you know, that was the sacrifice. That was the sacrifice for our sins, you know. So you get this theme of atonement, the sacrifice for whose sins, for whose life to that point. You know, did it feel like that to Patsy, that she was punished or that there was a sacrifice that she had to make because of lifestyle or transgressions or something, because of choices to date? Did she somehow feel through her religiosity that she had to accept